Hello, my ghosties, my ghoulies, and my moth people. Welcome to Noctivagant, the show about the strange, paranormal, otherworldly, and the people who write books about it. My name is Rory, and I am joined by two of the weirdest people that I know, Jay and Nick.
Hello.
I mean, you don't know that many people, so that's really not saying much.
I mean, that's fair. But, on this show, we are going to discuss, dissect, and review the best and worst in the world of paranormal and conspiracy literature. So settle in, buckle up, and prepare for a walk on the midnight roads of Noctivagant. And that's it. That's the intro. Hello, everybody.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hi.
Yeah, faces to voices. Finally, for like the first time ever for a lot of people, I'm sure. Because we don't post a lot of pictures online or anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason I don't shave my beard. I don't expect to be seen.
It's because you're trying to become one with the Squatch.
Maybe. It's either that or it's like my inner Ernest Hemingway clawing out violently through my chest.
Yeah, very possible.
Although the Squatch thing also makes sense. I am very hairy.
Yeah, you are easily one of the hairiest people that I know, as weird as that statement is. But it's true. So, Nick, what do we got in store for us today?
We got a lot of cool stuff in store. So, we have a couple announcements we're going to make. We have a giveaway coming up. We have some awesome prizes that we're going to be getting to.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing it low-tech, meaning I'm going to be drawing names from a hat. So, right out, before we even get there, if you want to be part of the giveaway before you even know what we're giving away, please make a note of that in chat. I'm going to be making a list, and towards the end of the live stream, we're going to do a drawing. We have 3 different prizes.
Yeah, and we'll obviously, if you join in later, we're going to give you another chance to get in on it. But if you do want to get in on some of these prizes, make sure that you drop your, name or whatever you want us to call us by in the chat, and we will make sure that we throw your name in the hat, so to speak.
And the other thing we're going to be doing today, so there has been something that has been requested of us a couple times, that we create some sort of Noctivagant book list, meaning just containing just the books that we thought were important or impactful enough towards our understanding of the phenomenon that they deserve to be on some sort of list. And we're calling these Noctivagant signposts because we're on theme and, signposts are on a road and midnight roads and all that.
So, and what we mean, like, the whole idea, I guess, just to give, if you didn't get it or you didn't understand our meaning, we'll break it down. We'll explain it a little bit. So, the midnight roads, the idea behind it, I guess, and it was an accident, which makes it even better, is that the journey for the phenomenon is exactly that. It's a journey, and it's blind, and it's weird, and it's crazy, and so we called it the Midnight Roads, and it's just our journey to understanding this greater whatever, and the signposts are the things that helped us along the way, and we're just leaving them there for you to find, too.
Yep. Which is a long way of saying we still have no idea what is going on.
Absolutely none.
All right, great. But yeah, no, that's what we have going on, so why don't we get into our announcements?
All right, yeah, I'll start. So, coming soon. So, something, I put a Twitter poll out, I don't know, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about whether or not we want to do things like book discussions and about the episodes after we released them so that we could all interact and chat and talk about the different things that we discuss on the show. And it got an overwhelming positive, yes, that's what people want. So, we're going to do two things with that. I'm going to do exactly what I said on Twitter, and I am going to start posting a thread and pinning it after the release of the main show, not the Midnight Chats, but the main show. And that way people on Twitter can interact and ask any questions, drop anything that they want to say. We can have conversations on that thread. It'll all be right there. But we are also going to be launching a Discord channel very soon. And in that Discord channel is where we are going to house, for now, while we don't, because we don't have a website or anything like that outside of the Buzzsprout website where we host the show. So in the Discord is where we are going to house the signposts. It's where we're going to also have separate discussions for about the books and all the different things. Really, it's going to be the go-to place to talk about anything related to the show, because it's an easy platform to use. It's also just a really fun platform, I think, and I think it'll be a great way for us to interact with all of you guys, since Twitter is kind of a what's the right word?
Toxic hellscape?
Yeah, that's actually perfect.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a toxic hellscape that I'm on far too much.
I mean, because it is, at least so far, with the people we communicate with, a significantly less toxic than our other options.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a good point. Today especially, I've had such awesome interactions with a lot of you guys and a lot of other people, but like on the flip side, there are times when it's not so fun.
Yeah, whereas Reddit is never fun.
No.
If you're not a Redditor, don't do it. It's not worth it.
No, it's there's a reason it's like 4chan and all those other sites,
Yeah, I regret my involvement with it every day I look at it.
And yet you can't rip yourself away. Something Jay knows all too well about another site that is the same.
Listen, for all of its faults and flaws, Tumblr is my home and my country and my ship that I will go down with to the bitter, bitter end.
I don't have an excuse like that. I'm just hopelessly addicted to social media like everyone else in the country.
Reddit really is a drug. It really is.
Yeah, I gotta feed that outrage machine.
Yeah.
We are a doomed generation.
Generation?
Yeah.
Species.
Generation, species, yeah, exactly. All right, so what else do we got coming up? Nick, you've got a big one. Let's kick that off.
Yeah, so you here on the live stream are going to be getting a scoop that is not technically going to be announced till the next main episode of our show, which is that the next Midnight Chats you can look forward to hearing, it's going to be after this upcoming episode, is with none other than Whitley Strieber. We're going to be sitting down and chatting with the man himself.
Yep.
That's something to look forward to. It was a great conversation. He had some amazing insights, and also it was just really cool to talk to Whitley Strieber.
And for the record, we decided to do the Summer of Strieber before we locked down that interview. We were doing it whether or not we got the interview with him, but we did actually somehow manage to find the time with him and get it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and honest to God, for one of the bigger names we've ever had on our show, he was surprisingly easy to work with. Yeah. We've had some people who didn't make it easy for us, but that's all right. But Strieber was on board beginning to end. It was awesome.
Being a fellow podcaster himself probably helps.
Thank you, Haunted Burb. I am a persuasive being.
One time we had a guy just not show up to the interview.
That's happened a couple times.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times.
Although, to be fair, Strieber did do that to us initially, if you'll remember, but it wasn't his fault. He lost power and internet like 10 minutes before the interview.
Yeah.
It was storming wherever he is. I don't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of Mr. Strieber. I was thinking of the people that just didn't show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple of those. We got them in the end. I don't think we've had anyone that we had to cancel outright.
Nope.
At the end, we managed to chase them down.
Yep.
By going to their home and finding their families and a list of their fears.
Yep. Yeah. Usually threats are what get us the biggest ones.
Yep, that's what you get when you have a show run by violent sociopaths.
Yep, and here we are.
Nick, don't say sociopath is a derogatory term.
I'm not going to unpack that right now. All right. Jay, why don't you take our next announcement?
Fine. So, this year, we are going to be attending Michigan Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie. That is going to be August 25th through August 27th. And the bulk of our little Midnight Road dwelling family is going to be up there on Saturday.
Yep.
We're going to be walking around, patronizing the vendors, attending lectures, disturbing burial grounds, not Native American ones, only ones where white people are buried.
We're not doing that either.
Yeah, I would prefer not to upset anything.
Yeah, I don't care what ethnicity the ghost is that's stabbing me to death. It's not happening.
Oh, look who's afraid to die by ghost.
I never claimed I wasn't afraid to die by ghosts.
But anyway, if you want to stop me from irritating some undead Americans, we'll be at Paracon, August 25th through August 27th. Seriously, go. It's where I got my dolls.
And it's seriously, like if you're in or around Michigan and can make it up there at that time, it is absolutely worth it, even for just one day, because every person. Well, I don't want to say every, but the vast majority of the speakers that they have to come to that conference are incredible. They're not just like anybody on the street. Like they have a lot of
not Scott the meth head who knows what he saw.
Yeah, no, they have, and it's not they don't just have like random, it's not just scientists. It's not just this, that, or the other thing. They have everybody. And their cousin, essentially, because and a lot of people that I respect inside the industry, they have like the Newkirks, John Tenney's going to be there, Amy Bruni's going to be there, a lot of people that we've covered on the show, Mike Ricksecker is going to be there, and more.
Yeah, my brain is
off the top of my
fritzing
head.
out right now, but so we're going to be up there on Saturday, and if you guys want to hang out with us, just let us know. Shoot us an email on Twitter, and we'll hook up there.
Yeah, because we're not vendors. We're not speaking. We're just going there as fellow weirdos.
We're tourists.
Yeah.
Speaking of being a tourist, if you have extra time while you're up there, go out and see Sault Ste. Marie. It's very cool.
There is a bizarre tower that was built kind of as like it was a Christian memorial, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like an evil sci-fi prison. And it is just bizarre, but it's a lot of fun to climb.
And also, drive a little bit north of Sault Ste. Marie and go see the locks.
The locks!
And if you have extra time while you're driving around northern Michigan, go on the long trek out to Paulding, where you can see one of the most consistent paranormal phenomenon in the world.
And according to Dawn here, there are a ton of Pokestops.
Thank you, Dawn.
What's the most consistent paranormal phenomenon in the world? Please
not the world, but I mean it's one of them. It's called the Paulding Lights. There is this particular spot where you're looking down a railroad track, and just about every night, way in the distance, this kind of luminous ball of light appears and just kind of strobes and flashes. And now there have been some scientists who've tried to figure it out. Many have failed. Some have claimed that what we're seeing is some sort of light phenomenon caused by refraction off of headlights off of a road that's like 8 miles down those tracks. But considering the fact that the locals say the lights were there before the road was put in, I doubt it. But I saw it myself. It is very cool. Even if it does end up being mundane, it's an amazing thing to just see a ball of light appear in the distance.
Absolutely.
I once had a grown man look me dead in the eye and say that the light at the end of the tunnel that dying people see is, well, that's when the doctors shining the little flashlight in your eyes. And I'm like, that shit's been reported since people had eyes. Predates flashlights. Mr. Adult Man who's having this conversation with a 12-year-old for some reason.
Michael of Troy was here in the chat. I'll get a link to Paracon right now and drop
Beat you to it.
Oh, all right. Never mind.
Ha!
All right, fine.
All right, so
I got 2 screens and I'm not quick enough. What's going on?
He is really manic right now. I can feel it coming off of him in waves.
Yeah, if you haven't been following my Twitter, I am dangerously caffeinated right now. So if I suddenly fall over, it's because I'm dead.
Shoot, what did I do with my water bottle?
I saw this post that was like, being autistic and meeting an ADHD person is going, oh, you're me, but fast. And, yeah.
All right, so moving on to our next thing, the giveaway. Now, we're not going to be doing the giveaway just now, but we're going to be explaining the rules now and showing you the prizes. We're going to be doing the actual drawing later on after we go through the signposts. And so our prizes today.
I'm so excited.
Our
Can
first,
you hide it?
I'm going to try to do my
Yes.
best Ivana White
autistic.
here. We are going to, the first prize is 3 of the books that we thought were particularly cool or important
I'll
over
hold
the
that
course
one
of
up.
our show. Oh, there you go.
Can you guys see those all right?
So what we have here is we have the Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, we have Peter Biebergall's Strange Frequencies, and we have The Haunting of Alma Fielding by Kate Summerscale. We each picked one book that we covered over the course of the show that we thought kind of contributed to our evolving understanding of the phenomenon. So, one of the prizes is going to be all 3 of these books.
Yep, all 3.
Even if you don't win the giveaway, please go read The Haunting of Alma Fielding. It's one of the best books I've ever read.
Our second prize that we're going to be giving away, we have an amazing
Books.
nature-y journal. It's made with cottonwood pages. It's pretty cool. And it's coming with this awesome quill pen.
Nick picked these out because he's amazing, and we would collapse without him.
Yeah.
True. All right, so that's the second thing we're going to be giving away, and
And the third thing.
the third is a little bit of a what's the right word? Not prophecy, divination. Thank you. A divination set. We're going to be giving away this Okie Dokie brand Death's Head Spirit Board. It does come with a planchette, but I didn't want to unwrap it so that you have the luxury of unwrapping it. And then also with that is going to be coming the Quantum Tarot version 2. This is by Kate Stopford and Chris Butler, and these 2 are going to constitute the third prize.
Yeah, and that, I'm not going to lie, I am super jelly of whoever ends up with that tarot deck because the art on it looks so cool.
I'd be super jealous of the Spirit Board as well because it has a moth on it,
Yeah.
Mothman, it's really cool.
Moth.
But I don't like having them in my house. So I'm excited for someone to win it so I can push that evil off on you.
Yeah. I like this. Speed of Human says, books with words and books yet to be written? Excellent. All true.
All right.
What you do with the journal and the quill is obviously up to you. And if you write a book and it's in the world of the paranormal, in that journal, we will cover it on the show. Putting that out there right now.
Wait, just if someone fills out the journal and mails it back to us, we'll read it and cover it on the show?
Yeah, as long as it's in the realm of the paranormal, why not?
You are going to get us in so much trouble.
Absolutely, I am.
I was about to say we get halfway through reading the book, and I'm like, y'all, this is a serial killer confession.
You know, and if that's the case, like,
If any of our viewers are a serial killer,
Sure.
1, just stop doing it. Come on. 2, don't confess to us.
They can't just stop doing it.
if it's a compulsion, it's going to be hard for them to just stop.
That was the whole problem.
Yeah.
So I just see Ori Pagan called dibs on the books. How this is going to work, that's actually a good transition. So again, if you want to be in the drawing for these prizes, put your name in chat or send us a private message on Twitter or our email account, noctivagantpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be monitoring all of them till the end of the live stream, and we're going to make sure we get your names into this hat. And, so how this is going to work is the first name we draw is going to have their pick of the 3 prizes. The second name is going to have their pick of the 2 remaining. And the third name we pick gets stuck with the leftovers.
I mean, all 3 are good, so it's not really getting stuck. You know?
Yeah.
But
Either or. Either your username or your real name is acceptable.
Yep.
As long as you know who I'm calling out when I pull that name out of a hat. Obviously, if you are one of the winners, we're going to have to talk to you off air briefly. We're going to have to, get your address and stuff, and or where you want it to be sent. If you have like a PO box or a sack in the woods, you want the courier to take it to.
So how I figure it'll work for if you win, send us an email with or DM us on the Noctivagant Podcast Twitter, and we will then, chat with you and get your deets. I promise we will not send you anything beyond the gifts or anything like that. But, yeah. that way, we can, actually mail it to you.
None of us want to commit mail crimes. I do not want to fuck with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Those guys will shoot you in the face.
Yeah, they're crazy. Big Mike, what up?
What up, Big Mike?
Haunted Burb, what up?
All right, so before I get too distracted sitting here writing down names, why don't we move into the signposts?
Yes.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, so like what I guess a large chunk probably of the stream is that we're gonna do is we're gonna go over all the books that we've covered so far on the show, and maybe some more that we haven't released yet, and we're gonna have our live discussion and or debate or whatever argument over whether or not these books deserve a place on the Noctivagant signposts. Obviously, if you guys have strong feelings about it, please, drop it in the chat. Let us know your thoughts, and if you think we're completely out of touch with reality here, well, that's exactly what we do here. We are, in fact, out of touch with reality. So,
COVID completely destroyed my reality. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what day it is. I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, I mean, I just live here. That's it.
Yeah. So, also, while we're doing this, again, if you want to be in the drawing for prizes, please post your name in chat or send it to us via email or on Twitter DMs.
And before we do the giveaway, we will have people give another opportunity to as well to drop their names in. But the earlier you do it, the easier it's going to be for us.
Also, thank you. We worked really hard on the setup because we realized we were going to actually be visible for once and panicked.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I just in general, like, I love that I feel so much more like the producer of the show now because I'm separate from you guys.
Because we gave you a cubicle?
I have my own space now. You guys are finally away from my desk. You're no longer attached to me. You're away, and you're no longer being picked up on my microphone, which is incredible.
Viewers, do you see my dolls?
Actually, the computer's blocking it, so why don't we move that? And they can see the weird shrine to your dolls.
My dolls!
And you can't really see it now, but at the top of the dresser, because the lighting and there's a glare from the sun, but there is at the top of the dresser, the armoire, there is a little moth guy in the midst of that little mini altar, and that's Maury, our mascot.
Maury the moth.
Yep. All right. One other thing. We are going to be having a section for a Q&A if people have questions, but if you guys have questions, feel free to shout them out in chat. We'll try to address them as we go throughout this.
Yep, and I'll pick up anything, and as well, I'll pick up any questions and make note of them. And they can be anything, like, honest to God, unless it's offensive, in which case we won't answer it, and I'll probably ignore you. But if you have any questions, anything at all, just drop it in the chat. We will address it either in the Q&A or as we go, depending on what's happening, because from here, it's all up in the air. We don't know what's going on anymore.
All right, so are we ready to start the signposts?
Let's do it.
Yes!
Okay, honestly, when I got all these books out and put them in the box that I have over here, I had a little bit of an existential crisis because I stared at them. I was like, "There's no way we've read that many books."
Yeah,
There absolutely is.
But as it turns out, yes, we have spent an inordinate amount of time reading about spooky stuff, and we're gonna keep doing it as long as you guys keep listening.
Marissa, hello, and the reading gargoyle is wonderful.
Yep, that's from my office actually, and I love him quite dearly. All right.
I like him too.
Honestly, I like all the things you guys picked. I love that we have the little pop planchette guy there.
That's Chet the planchette.
Didn't one of our friends get that for you?
Matt got that for me for my birthday, and I remember because we were at that bookshop, and I was
we
looking...
were at Second and Charles. That's right.
Yeah, and I was looking at it, and Matt just came over to me and was like, "Don't buy that." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just don't buy it." And I put it back on the shelf, and then like a week later on my birthday, I opened up the present from Matt, and it was Chet!
Yeah. What's up, Tyler?
Is that our Tyler or another Tyler?
It's our buddy Tyler.
Yay, Tyler!
And Michael of Troy was here. Yes, you can enter under your username.
Yay!
In fact, I'll write you down right now.
Oh, I know who that is. Okay. What up, Mike? That is the Tyler. All right, so I think for the signposts, I think that at least the first 2 books are going to be pretty easy, but let's get it started.
Yep. So just so you guys know, we do have a methodology to this. We have created a list of 3 criteria, and a book has to at least meet 2 of the 3 criteria in order to be included as a signpost. The book has to have either furthered our personal understanding of the phenomenon, the book has to have caused an existential crisis in one or more of us, and finally, the book must be wildly entertaining.
Yep.
Now, that said, because we are not scientists, if we just go through the list and we decide, hey, a book doesn't meet any of those or only meets one of those, but we want it in there anyway, we're gonna.
Yep.
And
because
you
we
can't
make the
stop
rules.
us.
We make up the rules here, I think.
All right, so our very first book, I think this one will be easy. The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel.
Yes.
Yeah, considering we reference this book and John Keel's theories just about every goddamn episode, I think this has to be included as a signpost.
Here's the thing. Like, yes, obviously, it is a signpost. It's also like the framework for how we kicked off the show and the framework for how we look at so much of the phenomenon. So I think...
It's our mascot.
Yeah, exactly. Maury the Mothman is our mascot. I think that's an obvious yes.
Well, and also, quite frankly, it hits all 3 of our criteria.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is a wildly entertaining book. It did cause existential crises,
Yeah.
and it obviously contributed towards our understanding of the phenomena. Well, again, I go back to, I don't think Keel is 100% right.
No.
I think he was onto something, and his ideas are nonetheless really well articulated, and they're really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to perform a 3.5-hour intensive intake assessment on John Keel, and I feel like he would give me nothing but problems the entire time.
Yes.
Accurate.
Correct. All right, so moving into our second book here.
Do you have them in order in your box?
I do,
Nice.
because I'm neurotic.
No, that's perfect. That's I was hoping you would.
I would die for you without hesitation.
Whoa, thank you. Strange Frequencies by Peter Biebergall.
Yes, I think so, and the reasoning is it was kind of our first toe dip into the occult, in its own way, and we referenced the idea of the occult circuit so much.
Well, and his whole concept of the occult imagination.
Yep.
Well, yeah, like basically that just because of that one idea, that's influenced so many of our conversations. I think it definitely meets the first criteria. Did it cause any existential crises? I didn't have any.
No, not necessarily existential crisis per se, but I think that, I mean, the book was a challenge for me personally, just because the idea of, like, because he broke down so much of, like, what I didn't understand and then comboed it with all his occult knowledge, and it was, it didn't cause an existential crisis of any sort, no.
But that said, it was wildly entertaining.
Wildly entertaining.
So it definitely hit 2 of the 3 markers. I say we include Strange Frequencies. Please tell me you're taking notes on this.
I'm not. I will, though. Yes, that is a good idea.
Yeah, we should probably take a record of what books we say are in there.
I can do that.
Yeah, all right.
I already have Google Docs pulled up on my phone. Not because I was writing thick at work or anything. I wasn't fucking doing that. That would be irresponsible.
You were writing fan fiction at work?
No. I just said I wasn't.
I feel like somebody in this room is lying.
All right, our third book, The Demon of Brownsville Road by Bob Cranmer and Erica Manfred. So this was the first ghost book we covered, and if you'll remember, we pretty much spent the whole episode trashing Bob Cranmer.
Yeah. That's part of why, if you noticed in the books that we chose to give away, of the first 3 that we chose, one of them was mysteriously missing.
I mean, that's it. It is an entertaining book.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely a fun read.
Yes, he was a toad.
But it didn't cause an existential crisis, and it also really, for me, didn't advance my thoughts about the phenomenon in general.
No. I will say it was wildly entertaining, though.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a signpost. It's a fun book. If you find it out and about, like maybe a used bookstore, pick it up.
Yeah.
But it was definitely worth a read. I don't think it is necessarily a critical read.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that boat with that.
All right, so that's that one. First 3 are easy.
Yeah, I figured those ones would be the easiest.
Actually, I think the next 2 are going to be pretty easy too. Trinity by Jacques Vallée and Paola Harris.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
But let's go down the criteria real quick.
Okay, it definitely advanced some of my understanding of the phenomenon, specifically regarding the UFO phenomenon. The fact that there was reported crashes pre-Roswell is, to me, a pretty big deal.
It's changing. It alters the entire mythology of American UFOs.
Right. And, I mean, also beyond that, again, I can't get away from the fact that Jacques Vallée is just such a good writer.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it definitely hits the wildly entertaining mark, and especially the stuff that those people saw, wild.
Yeah, and you know what? This is technically us saying that this is a signpost is absolutely a hot take to the UFO community because they do not like this book.
Yeah, and I don't get it.
It's because of the co-author Paola Harris.
I don't get it. I mean, we're in a field of people saying weird things about weird subjects.
Yeah.
But now we're going to draw the line and say that's too weird.
Yeah.
We don't like that person because they're too much of a
Misogyny.
weirdo.
Yeah.
Misogyny. I'm sorry, there's something in my throat. It's the fucking patriarchy.
Yeah, I guarantee you that at least plays a part in it. And the other side of it is people think that because she supported one person who came out as a hoaxer once in her lifetime, that everything that she's ever done is now fraudulent and fake.
Right, which, again, it kind of goes back to the problem of judging someone by a single decision they made.
Yeah, and this
Now, granted, if your one decision was, I'm going to run my car down a line outside a nightclub, yeah, you deserve to be judged for that one decision.
Yeah.
But she said some words about a dude.
Yeah, and came out afterwards and said, I didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She owned it, so whatever, fuck that. I'm
Well,
not.
and the third criteria, did it cause an existential crisis?
Yes.
I think it did for Jay.
Yeah,
I can't believe I believe in fucking aliens now.
I think that was the turning point.
I can't believe I believe in fucking aliens now.
All right, so moving on to the next book. The one that almost killed us early on, Secret Teachers of the Western World by Gary Lockman.
God damn it, Mr. Lockman.
I mean, boy howdy, what a book.
I mean, it was a slog,
Yeah.
but if you ever wanted a crash course on basically the history of esoterica, this is it.
Yeah,
This
and-
is the most definitive book I've found, and that's even comparing to some of the books we've covered later on the show.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
And for our viewers at home, you can look forward. We're going to be touching back on Lockman here shortly. And by shortly, probably closer to the end of the year, because, little known fact, the episodes that you guys receive were generally recorded about 2 months before they were released, because we like to have some lead time. So if we're ever talking about current events and they're not so current, that's why.
Yeah, we record about 6 weeks in advance, give or take.
So is this a signpost?
I would say yes, because I think, we talk about it all the time, but the occult has a place inside this world, and that book is such an incredible deep dive into Western esotericism in general, and we reference it on almost every episode, it feels like.
Anytime we're dealing with the whole idea of an inward journey or ascension, any of those, again, more esoteric topics, this is basically our bedrock.
Yeah. So I would say yes, and for the criteria, it absolutely caused existential crises in me, because this was the first time outside of reading aspects of the Nag Hammadi that I got a good, deep, understanding of Gnosticism and all these other things that I was interested in. And it blew my mind, some of the things that I learned. And I also think that was the episode when you told us the Enoch story.
Yeah.
And that absolutely crushed me.
Well, and I'll say this. I wouldn't say it was wildly entertaining, because it's a tough
hard.
book to get through.
Yes.
But that said, watching these two read it was wildly entertaining for me.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one time where I stayed up all night trying to read it?
Yes.
And you found me on the couch?
You were in the same position that you were in when I went to bed the night before, yes.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I'd been up all night blasting Vietnamese pop music because for some reason it helps me focus when I'm trying to...
Vietnamese what music?
Pop music.
Pop. Okay, I thought you said
So-
Vietnamese pot music, like P-O-T, and I was just imagining it's like some kind of percussion-only music genre that's played only on pots.
So
No.
would that be V-pop?
Yep, V-pop.
Ah.
It helps me focus sometimes when I can't make myself keep reading.
Here
And,
I was thinking I was going to make a joke, and it was just accurate.
Yeah, no, it's V-pop. And, and like Nick said, I was in the exact same position that he'd left me in, 9 hours before?
I don't get that much sleep. It was only 7.
Yeah, and it was just crack-eyed awake, just staring at that book, quietly enraged, because I'm smart, damn it, so why weren't these words making sense?
So the next two I think are going to be easy for different reasons. The first one, because it's not about the paranormal. Elliot Ness and the Mad Butcher.
No.
Wildly entertaining book.
It didn't...
It definitely had nothing to do with the paranormal, did not further understanding of it, nor did it cause existential crises beyond seeing that, hey, the problems with the police have always been here and are always going to be here, probably.
And we also learned something else that day. That Sweeney did do the damn thing.
Yes, Sweeney Dunn did that.
Dr. Francis Sweeney killed those people.
Yes. Yes, and also, this was the first book I've read that surprised me with a sudden picture of a severed head.
Yep. Welcome to True Crime. Anyway, go research Elliot Ness. He was a fucking badass. I love him so much, you guys. I love him so much. Our
next book is, I'll say a classic for the wrong reasons. Alien World Order by Len Gaston.
Fuck you, Len Gaston. I hope you're listening.
It was absolutely wildly entertaining, though.
Oh my
Here's the thing,
God.
it stopped being wildly entertaining when they started blaming, the Holocaust on lizard people.
Oh my God. The first third of it was one of the most fun things I've ever read, and then it was oops, all anti-Semitism.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'll say this, if, you're interested in the topic of reptilians, this is a great piece of what I believe to be science fiction. And I say I believe to be because you have to leave the room for the fact that you might be wrong. And if I am wrong and Len Gaston was telling the 100% truth in this book, I am going to leap in the river with rocks in my shoes.
Fair.
All right.
Are you keeping track of all the names over there for the...
I've only gotten 4 so far, so...
I got one from Twitter.
All right, so the list...
We've got Kai from Twitter. It's spelt K-A-J, pronounced K-A-I. Kai.
Okay.
Rhymes with sky.
Okay, so far our signposts are Mothman Prophecies, Strange Frequencies, Trinity, and Secret Teachers. Am I missing one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That sounds right.
All right, so the names I have so far for the raffle, real quick. Haunted Burb, Kai, Big Mike. I've done fold these because I shouldn't have folded them. Grace Bauer, and...
Mike as well.
Michael of Troy was here.
Yep, Michael of Troy was here, yep.
All right, so if I didn't call out your name just there and you want to be in on the prize drawing, you still have plenty of time to reach out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we'll probably do check-ins every now and again like that, sporadically, to make sure we didn't miss anybody.
Anytime Nick gets tired of hauling up books.
Yeah. We got to kill time somehow.
All right, our next book, Passport to Magonia by Jacques Vallée.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, again, it's really tough to beat Vallée.
It's also one of the most iconic books in the world of ufology, period.
Yeah, and I mean for good reason. It blows the entire conversation wide open. It allows you to talk about things.
Did you see what Big Mike just said? Yeah, about Alien World Order. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, you should feel bad for my mental health. This show has not done good things for it.
I've never once in my life seen you go absolutely ape shit like that. And I've known you for 15 years.
Here's the thing. Here's the goddamn thing. I try so hard with every book we read to kind of check my disbelief at the door. To go in fully ready to accept whatever's on the page, just long enough for me to have a conversation about it. And I couldn't do it with that book, and that annoyed me. But then we got into the episode, and because the book annoyed me, I hadn't done much thinking about it beforehand like I do with most books. So as we're talking about it, I'm finally doing the thinking and getting angrier and angrier, and I swear to God, I have no active memory of the last half of that episode.
No, that's fair.
You screaming the phrase "bullshit, Bob" repeatedly was one of it lives rent free in my head, and also the way your eyes lit up when I taught you the phrase "pretendian" will keep me warm through many winters.
All right, so yeah, back to Passport to Magonia, books that matter.
Which I agree with Marissa here. It was in fact amazing.
Yeah, and
it's probably one of, if not, it might be still my favorite book that we've covered. But it is definitely, if it's not my favorite, it's up there.
Well, and I think if there's any book that we've covered that it deserves to be a signpost, this is it.
God, yeah, like hands down, just easy decision, that one.
All right, so our next one.
What did you do?
The book pile toppled, and so I'm trying to figure out which one was next. Here we go. The Haunting of Alma Fielding by Kate Summerscale.
This is actually tough.
Okay, I'm arguing that this one needs to be a signpost just because most of the time now when I am on the show attempting to distinguish between something I categorize as a ghost and something I categorize as a poltergeist,
it's the framework for poltergeist. I agree. That's a good point.
I cite Alma Field during the most recent haunting episode that we did, which the book we covered in that, I used Alma Fielding as the precedent upon which I argued my entire thesis.
Well, and the fact that, like, as for our third point, the book needs to be wildly entertaining. Again, this book was written like a novel, written by a very good novelist. Yeah. So it definitely was entertaining. It engaged me. I kept forgetting that I was reading a nonfiction book.
Yeah, and I would say it absolutely pushed, it furthered my understanding of the phenomenon because, like you said, Jay, this is the framework that we use for poltergeist now, and we're not alone in that because a lot of that framework comes from, even though we don't like him, it comes from Fodor. And that's like a lot of other people in the industry, that's the framework that they use too.
Did you know they're making a Jeff the Talking Mongoose movie?
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think Simon Pegg is playing Nador Fodor.
Yep.
Which should be hilarious.
Yeah, pitch perfect casting.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that.
And also Nandor Fodor, like Jacques Vallée and some of these other guys that we've read, he gets referenced quite a bit in the other texts that, like, I believe he was brought up in Occult America quite recently, and
they don't know that we did that book.
Well, that's okay. Spoiler alert for those that are here.
Yeah, we're going to actually be talking about a couple books that you guys have not heard us talk about yet because while we've recorded the episode, it's not out yet. But so you're going to get a little bit of a scoop of some of the stuff coming up.
But we won't spoil anything, just tell you whether or not it's a signpost.
So I'm going to throw this in the signpost pile, although I will point out we're encountering a problem here is that we mostly pick good books. And that means our signpost pile is probably going to end up being significantly larger. I
don't know. I think that's fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with having a long reading list. I mean, what do you think? It was going to be 12 books? We've been doing this for a year.
As I said, when I looked at that box, I was shocked about how many books we've read.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I have no active memory of recording most of these episodes.
That's fair. I don't either, and I not only was there for the recording, but I've edited it and listened to most of these episodes 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I remember all of them.
All right, our next book, Theoretical Weirdo by John E.L. Tenney. Here's the thing. I am slightly torn on this book.
I know, me too. I've actually spent some serious time thinking about this book specifically leading up to the stream. Because I want to. Because I love Tenney.
Me too.
Well, I mean,
Tenney's amazing.
The one thing I will say is that I think not so much my understanding of the phenomenon. This book did a shit ton, though, to help me understand, I guess, the paranormal community.
Yes.
Yeah. And that has value innately. And beyond that, I mean, it didn't cause really an existential crisis, though I'd argue Tenney did. Yeah. In the interview we had with him, he caused several existential crises.
Yeah.
And it is wildly entertaining.
And, and here's another thing. I would say that if it could be a signpost for no other reason than it is that we're doing the book, and then the follow-up Midnight Chat was our first Midnight Chat. It was with John Tenney, and this is somebody that we now have a relationship with. Like, we go to his shows. We talk to him outside of doing the interview. Like, I think that alone is enough that might push it into, because it's he's, I don't know.
We're big John Tenney fans, so we're going to put it in there regardless of what any of you say.
Yeah, yeah.
I added it to the list before you confirmed it.
All right.
I know how y'all operate. I quarantined with y'all.
And
The
you know
Michigan
what? And we're getting love for Tenny in the chat, so you know what that means? That means that we made the right choice here.
Yep. All right, next is Michigan Dogman by Linda S. Godfrey. If you'll remember, the Paranormal Burrito guest starred on this episode.
Yeah.
And,
I actually haven't heard from Caleb in a while.
yeah, I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah,
Caleb,
me too.
where are you?
Going down the list, I mean, some of the anecdotes in here were certainly interesting. I don't think they really furthered my understanding of the cryptid situation, because, again, like a lot of cryptid books, my big issue is that you read them, and it's largely 90% anecdotes and witness reports that at the end really come to the conclusion of, and isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... I guess if I was going through life with a strict belief that there is no... there is no form of paranormality that exists, sure, this could open my mind up, maybe, because maybe I decide some of the people in this book sound a lot like me, and I relate to them, and yada, yada, yada. But for me personally, I was already there. This book didn't add anything to my understanding.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think I don't think this furthered my understanding of the phenomenon in any way. And honestly, like, it was a cool read, had some really interesting stories, but ultimately it didn't really do much for me.
Yeah, unfortunately. It didn't cause me an existential crisis. I don't think it did for any of us.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
It was entertaining. I had fun with that episode and reading the book, but we've definitely covered more entertaining books.
And you know what? Just to address something that was said here in the chat, I totally agree with this. If for no other reason, Speed of Human says, if for no other reason than a consolation prize for missing Great Escapes EU, Tenny belongs in the stack.
Wait.
And I wholeheartedly
I
agree.
thought he was in Europe right now.
No, he got COVID.
Really?
He got, the day before he was supposed to go out there for that event with the Newkirks and Amy and all of them, he got COVID.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
Well, we are definitely wishing a swift recovery to Mr.
yeah.
Tenney. That is really unfortunate. I would be
That's horrible.
devastated.
Yeah, no, and he's been pretty quiet online, so I think he is pretty beat up about it, and that it's just that sucks so much. Him and Jess both, like that.
I knew Jess got it because they were talking about it on What's Up Weirdo.
Yeah.
All right, so our next book, The Uninvited by Stephen LaChance.
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not convinced that these events actually happened.
I think about 80% of that book was lies.
I pretend that all of it happened just because Charlie's story is one of the funniest fucking things I've ever thought about.
Charlie might fall in the 20%.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
I do love Charlie.
Yeah. The book was wildly entertaining. It definitely hits that point.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the read.
I don't think it hits the other two, though. And again, it comes back to when you really... we went over it a little bit on that episode, which we had... That was Naomi of Morbid Forest who guest starred
and
on
that was a great episode.
It was, but as we're talking, we laid it out. The narrative fundamentally doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think about what he's saying, it doesn't make sense. Not to mention, Mr. Winter is a cartoon villain who absolutely isn't real.
Yes.
If Mr. Winter's real, I'm gonna back to rocks in my shoes and jumping in the river.
Y'all,
Yeah.
okay. So, listeners, you know how I frequently mention that I watch nothing but haunted house trash on like fucking Discovery Plus? I saw the episode of A Haunting, which is, please watch A Haunting. It's one of the worst shows I've ever watched.
It is the trash of the trash.
I cannot physically enjoy the show unless I am stoned.
Yeah.
That should
so
tell
bad.
you something.
It's so bad. But they had an episode called Fear House that was about the Union Screaming House, and Mr. Winters conspicuously does not appear in that episode. The landlady, because it's a woman, is mentioned once, and she's like not a problem. She just rents the house to them and just disappears from the narrative. And also, I went digging around online, and somehow in the public records, and I couldn't find this again with a gun to my head, I found part of the report that the local Catholic parish issued about the Union Screaming House. And they reference a landlady whose name is not Winters. Mr. Winters doesn't fucking exist.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And
you know what's funny?
So bad it's stoner good.
You know what? Here's the thing, though, is that I will say this about the Uninvited. I think that book prompted us to do more outside research than any other book, just because we had to see if this batshit narrative had any kind of truth to it.
It's true.
I remember still Naomi's face in the Zoom call when I said that Stephen LeChance, if he wanted to, someone asked him a question in an interview, if you could ghost hunt with one investigator, who would it be? And he said Ed Warren, the noted fraud. Yeah. And Naomi made this hysterical face on the Zoom call where she's like, Ed Warren? He said that out loud where human beings could hear him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I think he might be a liar.
What's up, Dennis? I see you in the chat.
And also, I wear size 13 shoes, but I'm sure I can find some heavy rocks.
You do have giant feet, though.
I do. I'm.
You're also tall. You're also tall as fuck. So.
I'm tall. I'm hairy, and I have giant feet.
You're a Bigfoot.
I am likely related to the Squatch.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next book.
That's why we call you the Bear Squatch.
Flying Saucers Over the White House by Colin Bennett.
God, no.
Here's the thing, is that it talks about a really interesting event in the most dull way possible.
I don't think you could... if there was ever a book that is just so nuts and bolts, it made me hate the nuts and bolts theory, there's the one. And I was almost disappointed by how we got 2 paragraphs worth of anything outside of just radar data in the whole book. I get that based off who the author is and what their focus of this book was very much on the military experience of this event. And I'll say it was interesting to learn about the event. It was interesting to kind of get a snapshot of, what the government's thoughts were about the phenomenon at that stage. But I can't say it really propelled the conversation forward for me. In its defense, though, and I will say, though I don't think that this leads it enough to make it a signpost, but it is the first excursion, so to speak, that we took into and got information from Project Grudge and Project Blue Book and things like that, outside of references in Passport to Magonia and Trinity, but an actual deep dive into those things. But I don't think that alone merits it enough to be a signpost, because there are tons of other books out there that I'm sure we're going to do that are going to be better. Well, and also, again, the book was framed as kind of a biography of Ruppelt and kind of painting him as this American hero. And again, reading the narrative, I don't see where the author's coming from on that. Yeah. It seems like he was a pretty proficient middle manager who got used by these programs to discredit UFOs. Yeah, and he tried to make Ruppelt out as a hero, and I didn't get it. So, no. It's a no from me, dog. All right. So, moving on to the next one. The Believer by Ralph Blumenthal. Yes. Yeah, this book... here's the thing. Besides giving me kind of a new personal hero in John Mack, to add to my list of personal heroes... this was honest to God. I've been interested in UFOs since I was a kid, and I knew the abduction phenomenon was a thing, but I never really looked into it for 2 reasons. One, it scared me because I was a child, and two, honestly, it's because I kind of gathered the opinion from bad UFO documentaries that it was all hokum, it was all made up, it was people seeking attention. And this book dramatically changed my opinions on that. Just here, especially when we get into not just what John Mack talked to these patients about and what those patients' experiences were, but seeing the reactions the university, the law had to John Mack and him pushing this envelope. I don't know. Again, it's if someone is trying to stop you from going through a door, it's because there's something beyond that door you might want to see. Yeah. No, the book is just it's so goddamn good.
Yeah, and
Like it's just so good it's so well written, and then just learning as much as we did about John Mack and what he did for the experiencers in his time. It absolutely that needs to be a signpost, because we kind of follow John Mack's framework when we're talking about experiencers now.
yeah, well, and kind of the whole idea of, regardless of if an event was true or not, it was true to the person, and even if you don't believe them, you owe it to them to at least be kind.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and that's the thing. I mean, we go back to that on the show all the time. Honestly, like, again, I go back to, I don't have an issue with skepticism regarding these topics. I think
No.
it's very, very healthy.
No, you need to have
But
skepticism.
there's a difference between that and basically hardening your mind and saying there is nothing there, and anyone who says there is insane or a liar.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you're not contributing anything. You're just being an asshole.
Yeah.
It is the book that that combined with an interview we did a little while ago is what prompted me to go like, maybe we should do an actual book on the science of repressed memories, just in the name of being responsible, because yeah.
Which, for those at home, we are currently working up to recording an episode on that book. And just fair advance warning, this is not going to come out till, I think, November?
Something like that.
Something like that.
No.
No, it wouldn't be that.
It'd be like October-ish.
Yeah.
That book is going to probably be one of the most intense episodes we've ever had, because I'm only 40 pages into the book, and it makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, just FYI.
It's super intense.
So this one will have trigger warnings both in the front of the episode, in the show notes. There will be heavy trigger warnings because it's going to be very intense.
But it's a very different take on the idea of recovered memories than what we typically get in the abduction phenomenon. And there are some interesting kind of compare and contrast moments in there, and also just I feel it's gonna become a handy litmus test for, hey, if a therapist is behaving in the following ways, please run away as quickly as you can, because you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our next book, What Happened in Craig by Leland Hale. I'm going to go with a no because it doesn't have anything to do with the paranormal.
It's true crime.
It's true crime, but it was a fun book.
It was a fun book, but good.
Surprisingly.
And also, Leland Hale was a surprisingly fun interview, and he was a really nice guy. But it's not going to be a signpost book.
I don't think, of all the people we've interviewed so far, I've never had anybody dodge a question so professionally.
Yeah,
that was so funny.
He juked and weaved his way through the interview, and here's the thing: is that I wasn't even mad because I could see the panic in his eyes.
It was Neo dodging bullets in slow motion. He was like, no.
No, it was so good.
All right, so that one was easy.
Me frantically cobbling a bridge between true crime and paranormality, and both communities burning it from each end as I work.
Yeah.
So this one we might have to discuss a little bit. Fringeology by Steve Volk. So let's go down the checklist here. Did it contribute to our understanding of the phenomenon?
If no other chapter did, the microtubules chapter did.
We reference that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and it did kind of... It was the first book we covered on the show that injected quantum physics into the paranormal, and I mean, that's a very fascinating and rich topic to discuss.
But we can, if that's the only thing that is the biggest takeaway from that book that we, that we think helped further our understanding of the phenomenon, which in my opinion that really is the only thing, we could go and read one of Hammeroff and Penrose's books that they wrote together on that exact topic.
Yeah.
We wouldn't understand any of it.
Yeah, here's the thing, is that, okay, so we've talked about, down the road, this is nothing that's happening right now, but we've talked about down the road starting a Patreon like everyone else, and we've been trying to brainstorm up some ideas of what things we might do for our Patreon members, and one of the ideas that's come out is doing a live episode on 420 where we attempt to cover a book while getting progressively less sober, and
by our preferred method.
And so maybe we'll save that for that episode, because if we're already not going to understand it, let's throw that in the mix and see what happens.
I mean,
Yes.
that's not a bad plan, but I think
I'm so into that.
I mean I like it. I'm always down to do weird shit like that. That's fun as hell.
All right.
We should have totally taped the Spirit Box sessions we did and put them somewhere.
I mean I have the recordings of them.
Yeah, we got to go through those, see if there's anything.
Yeah,
good.
I gotta do that. So another thing that they don't know about while we continue mulling over this book, we actually did a ghost investigation 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, at our friend's house, and we got some interesting Spirit Box hits. There was one point
And
where
we did Estes method spirit box session, so think more channeling versus like listening to the actual sweeping radio.
Unfortunately, when I was wearing it, the only phrase that came through as more than one word and came through very clearly was "shove it up your ass." So whatever was talking to us did not like either me or them.
Yeah.
All I said was like Steven.
Steven? And you said it like Pearl from Steven Universe so many times.
I don't know why.
All right, so going back to fringeology here,
Thank
did
God
the
for
book
you.
did the book cause any existential crises?
Not that
I
I
don't
remember.
think so.
No, I don't think so.
It was entertaining.
It was, and it was really well written too.
Yeah, I think this is a book that'd be valuable to read. I'm not sure it's a signpost. What do you guys think?
What
What do you guys think at home? Chime in if you remember this book.
I'm so on the fence because I like this book a lot, and I think it has merit, but I don't know if there's enough.
I think the other problem is it was so close to Surviving Death, and Surviving Death is just such
That's a good point.
Surviving Death is such a massive shadow that it casts that honestly I'm not surprised that it's difficult to remember fringeology, because Surviving Death was like getting punched in the nose.
This was right before Surviving Death. Literally, I think the book before it, and this was like the perfect tee up for it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with the no.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
think I'm going to, unfortunately, as well. Well, I really enjoyed the book, and I'd advocate for people to read it. I think I said this on the episode. I think this is the perfect book to hand your skeptical parents who know nothing about the paranormal, because this book does a great job of kind of cracking the ice on several paranormal topics and basically just allowing the conversation to start happening.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right, our next book, Surviving Death by Leslie Kean.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going with a hard yes. This book was amazing to me. I think about it very often.
Yeah.
Especially because, I mean, the topic of the afterlife is very, it's very difficult. Everyone has very specific religious beliefs about it. And this book kind of stripped those away in the sense that it broke death down to a very universal experience. It wasn't steeped in dogma about heaven or nirvana or any of your various afterlife realms. It was more just steeped around the fact that science says this is very likely a thing. There is something more after. We just don't know what it is. And yeah, I think about this book all the time when it comes to the afterlife. I think this has to be included. Also, it is very entertaining and did cause existential crises.
I think in all three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was a heavy conversation we had.
But it phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal book, and so it's a yes from me.
It's also easier to read than you think it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that speaks volume to the author.
Well, I
Leslie
mean,
Kean's amazing.
it also comes back to
Crazy as hell.
who would have thought that journalists are good writers?
Journalists.
I hate you so much.
I know. It's okay.
What's-
You're stuck with me forever.
That's love.
Our next book.
We're getting yelled at in the chat. Hey now.
Hey, after a certain number of years of being my friend, you lose basic human rights, and Rory is there.
Yeah, I've been there for a while, from what I understand, because, I mean, even in high school, you just beat me.
I'm less violent now.
Yeah, thank God. I'm not sure I could survive.
I don't think I could either.
Yeah.
All right, A Walk in the Shadows by Mike Ricksecker. How are we feeling about this one?
I think it was a fine book.
Yes.
I think that if you're interested in the concept of shadow people, you should read that book, because it is very in-depth, very well-researched, very done with lots of experience. And I would say it does meet point number one. I will say I think it did further my understanding of the phenomenon, because even though I don't necessarily like the idea of putting things like shadow people into a cosmology, doing it gave an interesting framework for shadow people in general.
Well, and I will say this book also kind of created the division in my mind between of shadow people being a distinct phenomenon on their own, because prior to that,
Not
I mean, I really just thought, that they're a type of ghost. People see them in haunted places.
Yeah.
I vote for this one, and I vote for this one being a signpost for those following reasons, but I also have to admit I am biased just because shadow people are an ongoing thing with me, and this is probably the first actual book I've dug up that seems to actually try and figure out sort of what the fuck's going on.
And we did, you picked this up at Paracon last year.
From Mike. And we did an interview with him, too. And that was an early midnight chat, if I'm remembering.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're still in the early stages of if you're talking about midnight chats.
Yeah. So, I vote for Walk in the Shadows.
Yeah, all right. I could see it.
I'm on the fence, but I'm fine with it.
All right, we'll put it in.
Oh, and Michael of Troy was here. Really liked that episode too. So hey, there you go.
Did we have a guest star in that episode?
No,
the next episode we did.
Yeah, that was just us.
So our next book is Visitors from Lanulos, My Contact with Indrid Cold. If you remember, we had Jack Preston King guest starring on that episode.
And you know what? What a wild fucking ride this episode was, because, spoiler, we were gonna tear this book apart.
Yeah.
We had every intention going into this episode. We were gonna tear it apart. And then Jack talked.
Yeah, here's the thing is that I can't in good conscience say this belongs on the list.
Oh, God,
because
no.
It didn't cause existential crises. It didn't further our understanding. It was wildly entertaining, and it didn't cause existential crises, but Jack did.
Jack did. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Jack absolutely did.
So I can't say this belongs on there. However, it is a wildly entertaining book, and in case you can't see, very quick read. It's more like a pamphlet.
It was in total, it was like 90 pages in large font.
I want to load every copy of it in existence onto a giant slingshot and fling it all into the sun.
Don't do that. It's fun.
It was a fun book, but it is definitely not a signpost. But you know what? Thank God for Jack, because that was such a fun episode just because of the hot takes that came out of it.
Yeah, because we were all scrambling. All our points we came in with went out the window.
Yeah.
I clung to mine.
Yeah, you did.
Like a man.
Our next one, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon by James Lakatsky, Colin Kelleher, and George Knapp. Well, this is, again, a pretty controversial book among the UFO community. There's lots of people who hate it. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I think it was a great overview of kind of a great overview of the lead up to our current disclosure movement. I thought it was very valuable for that reason. And I will say, I think it did spawn some good conversation about the nature of the phenomenon, specifically in relation to the things happening at Skinwalker Ranch.
No, absolutely, and it gives a really, really good... I mean, the whole book exists as a response to Lou Elizondo and everything that was happening in the disclosure movement because of the misunderstanding of the difference between ATIP and OSAP. And that's the reason that this book ended up coming out, essentially. That's why George Knapp and all of them pushed it, I believe, as quickly as they did.
Yeah, no, I do think it did further, I guess, not my understanding of the phenomenon. It furthered my understanding of the situation.
Yeah. And
our conversations helped kind of continue my evolving understanding of the phenomenon.
And ultimately, like, while it may not have pushed our understanding of the overall phenomenon, it does. I mean, most of that book was written from a more nuts and bolts perspective, but they were talking about the wild shit that we talk about all the time.
Yeah, it read like people who come from a nuts and bolts perspective taking an honest look at woo stuff.
Yeah, no, and that's why that alone is why I would say yes to this book.
I would say yes as well. I will say I don't think it meets the third criteria. While several of the anecdotes in here are very interesting, some of this sounds like it was written like stereo instructions.
Yeah.
And so it was very dry, very journalistic, but that said, it wasn't trying to entertain you.
No, it's trying to be informational, and it definitely was.
Unlike Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, where they're like, we found a window into where the anomaly lives, and we're gonna fire rockets into it and see what happens. You're just gonna, okay, you think there's an ultra-terrestrial that has been so traumatized that it's lashing out at everything on the ranch, and you're like, we're gonna launch weapons right into its living room. Why? Why the fuck are you doing that?
I will say, that show is a guilty pleasure of mine. I totally enjoy that show.
What's Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that show. It's stupid, and I love it.
I half watch it when I've taken so many edibles I can no longer string together a sentence when I'm trying to write.
That makes it so much more fun to watch, too.
Yeah, that's what it's just like when they said we're gonna launch rockets into the window to the anomaly, I lost my shit. I could not handle it, especially because the previous day I think the previous day I'd been ranting about, like, why does everyone treat paranormal investigators like we're these crazed psycho hicks that are just running around trying to shoot Bigfoot and torture ghosts? And then the fucking Skinwalker Ranch guys are like, rockets into its face. I'm like, oh.
They didn't just launch a rocket. They launched several rockets, and they're fucking huge.
Well, but here's the thing, though, is that they were
nerds.
doing it scientifically.
Yeah.
There was instrumentation, so it wasn't just shooting rockets. However, I do love the image of some alien sitting in his lazy boy in his floating fortress above Skinwalker Ranch. Suddenly a whole fucking missile just comes through the window, starts bouncing off the walls. He's screaming, his cat's screaming.
Because the most recent rockets that they launched were fucking huge.
Yeah, they were enormous. All right, well, I think that settles that one. Our next one, Season of the Witch, How the Occult Saved Rock and Roll by Peter Biebergall.
No.
Yeah,
I loved this book. I loved it, but and it was wildly entertaining, but I don't think it furthered my understanding of the phenomenon, and I can't say that it caused an existential crisis in me, but I fucking love it.
Yeah, no, I loved this book. I don't think it belongs on the list.
No,
and part of that is because when we really got into it, while Biebergall was talking about the occult, and he talks about the occult imagination, none of those ideas were anything new to someone who's already read Strange Frequencies.
Yeah, and it was honestly, it was a history book about rock and roll and the occult, not about the occult. You know?
Yeah, that said, if you like rock and roll at all, pick this book up. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. The stuff you learn about Sid Barrett alone, worth. In my opinion.
Yeah, and that story about someone coming over to David Bowie's house and he's doing all that weird shit, and it's like, what are you doing? And he's ranting about how another musician cast a curse on him and is trying to kill him, and it's like, okay, I can see why things got to the point that they did.
Yeah.
All right, keep moving. We're actually moving at a good pace here. We're almost through the box. Our next book, Twin Telepathy, by Guy Lyon Playfair. This was our first sci book we covered. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I'd say yes simply because this was the first book that I've read regarding sci that did a really good job of laying out the actual laboratory-controlled experiments that have been done that, in my mind, pretty definitively prove sci is a thing. Mm. We don't understand its mechanics, we don't understand its limitations, but it's a thing. It's certainly a thing.
That's funny. I was ready to say no to this book, but I'm fine with it ultimately.
I reference some of the ideas that are floated in this book so frequently that it's kind of like with Alma Fielding, where I feel like I need to argue for this getting put in just because I bring it up so frequently.
And that's fair. And I mean, the point of it was like our first excursion into sci, and honestly, it was really well done in terms of providing actual researched evidence, not just random stories. Like these are he did nothing but provide studies that were into this, and then his frustration with those studies. And
this is Twin Telepathy by Guy L. Playfair, Dawn.
Yeah. Playfair was great about stuff like that in general, and he had kind of a habit of digging around in areas of sci and paranormality that other people were ignoring. Like, he was one of the first people outside of Brazil to do he did this massive book on the psi and paranormal phenomenon as is specific to Brazil. Because, guys, really weird shit happens in Brazil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I will say the Twin Telepathy also led to a hilarious moment where I was an idiot, because when we were preparing to do the episode, I was, I schedule the midnight chats. I'm the one who does a lot of the outreach, and I was scouring the internet, being like, where the hell is Gael Playfair's email? And it took me, I shit you not, 20 minutes before it suddenly hit me that he's dead.
Yeah, he's been dead for like a while.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, I think when you told me that, I was like, yes, of course he's dead. Like, it was a fact, like everybody knew.
Who did we interview in between that one?
Oh, I don't remember. Hold on, I'll look at it.
I've got it. I can pull it up. You keep going. I'll pull it up.
All right. So our next book, Life with the Afterlife by Amy Bruni. While this hits the entertaining mark for me, I don't think it hits the other two. It was an interesting kind of tale of her journey into becoming a paranormal investigator and some basic rules about how not to be an asshole while being a paranormal investigator. But that said, there wasn't a lot in here to chew on from a kind of metaphysical, deep philosophical discussion angle.
No, I would agree. I would agree with that. And as much as I loved this book. And on this one, we had Chris DeMars on the episode. And not only was that just awesome in general, but Chris and I are friends now because of it. So, like, I love everything that happened because of this book. But unfortunately, I don't think it furthered my understanding of the phenomenon, because I already agreed with all of these points that she makes in the book.
Yeah.
And we interviewed the Traveler's Moon.
Yes. That's right.
With,
all right.
The
Twin Telepathy.
With Twin Telepathy, yeah.
All right. Our next book, I think, should be pretty easy. Operation Trojan Horse by John Keel.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a yes. I mean, the whole concept of window areas blew my frickin' mind. Well, here's the thing. I knew about window areas.
Because I just touched on it briefly in Mothman.
Yeah, but the way he describes it here and the depth he goes into about, I guess, he goes into much greater depth about his ultra-terrestrial theory, and I just found it very, very interesting, very, very entertaining, and, I mean, it definitely opened up some doors in our conversations that would have remained closed otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think it's an easy one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be hard, honestly. It's going to be hard for Keel not to make the list on most of his books, I'm sure.
Disneyland of the Gods is pretty terrible.
Okay. You knew what I meant, and yet you still want. I'm just keep going.
And to be fair, I read that book like in elementary school, so I just might not have understood what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Our next one, Satanic Panic, Pop Cultural Paranoia in the 1980s. I loved this book. I was really entertained by this book. I don't think it belongs in the signposts.
No,
I agree. In this one, we had Chris Jimenez on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, loved it. Loved the episode. Fuck, we laughed so much. I think that's still our longest episode. Mm-hmm. Clocking in at over 3 hours.
Which, by the way, the fact that you people at home listen to our episodes, I mean, good on you. I don't have the patience for it.
I think, personally, at this point, Satanic Panic is still hands down the best summary I've ever done.
I mean, I'll say this: it's also probably the most beautiful, like, physical book we've ever done. The art in it is amazing. The pictures in it are great. It's just a very slick-looking book, and it's also very difficult to get your hands on. And now I'm really happy that I have one.
Which is why I just let Chris have the other copy, since we had two. Jay and I obviously were married, so we didn't need 2 copies of it. Mm-hmm. So I just gave my copy to Chris, and worth it.
Yeah. It does not belong on the signpost list, but it's a beautiful book of essays and articles, and especially in the wake of Stranger Things season 4 kind of like coming out, I really encourage you guys at home to go and do some actual research into what the Satanic Panic was and the immeasurable harm that it not only caused back then, but is still causing to this day.
Yeah, like I talk about this a little bit on the episode, but like I grew up under the shadow of people who were essentially brainwashed by the idea of the Satanic Panic. And I'm not saying that it was intentional, it was just the culture that was built up around it, and not brainwashed on purpose. That's not what I meant. But like the culture, like I said, the culture around it just enforced these ideas, and it wasn't until probably my 20s that I really started to break outside of that mold myself, which is wild to think about.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to our next book. We're rounding the bend to our final few here. Spiritual Alchemy by Jenny Tyson.
I like this book a lot.
I like it.
I'm surprised by how much I like this book.
See, I liked it as well. I don't think it belongs on the list.
No, I think it's a good conversation piece, and I think it's a really interesting reference, but I don't think it furthered my understanding of the phenomenon. I would say it was wildly entertaining in its own way, but the fact that it is such a personalized experience makes it hard, and the fact that half the book is essentially uncoverable in the show.
Yeah, because it was like charts and stuff, and basically instructions on how to do what she did. And again, I come back to, I really enjoyed this book. I just think that, largely speaking, again, like you were saying, it read to me like reading someone's personal religious experience. And because of that, at least me personally, it was a little hard to talk about, because obviously I'm not going to say, well, she's wrong or she's lying, because it's her personal experience. It's what she went through, even if it doesn't jive with some of my understanding based off my research of esotericism, of alchemy, things like that. But she's definitely doing her own thing, and she was great to talk to.
You okay?
I think you got distracted by the chat.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. So I thought it was great to talk about. I just think probably that the other books on our signpost list are a little stronger.
Yeah. No, I agree.
No, but that said, I did really enjoy this book.
Yeah, and I picked that up at a local metaphysical shop and started reading it on my own and went, oh, you know what? This will probably be a good book for the show and worth it. And you know what? And Jenny Tyson has been really cool, because we interviewed her on for a midnight chat, and she interacts with us and talks to us all the time. In fact, her and I were just DMing with each other the other day. So
yeah, no, she's a great lady. That interview was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Honestly, surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Also, Big Mike, in reference to your statement about the Requiem LARP, my mom's first college roommate changed dorms because she saw that my mom had D&D books and she didn't want to be around satanic black magic.
Wild.
Yeah.
No, the stream's still moving.
Yep.
Yeah, the stream is still moving.
All right. I thought it froze for a second.
I'm watching, don't worry.
All right, our next book, Communion by Whitley Strieber.
Oh, we've entered the summer of Strieber.
We have entered the summer of Strieber. I think that just as a kind of hallmark UFO book, this has to be included.
Absolutely.
Even
if I hated the book, I feel like we'd have to.
Yeah, it's too foundational to the field of ufology, especially the abduction topic. Because, again, we go back to, we read this today, and a lot of what he goes through sounds like a bunch of other alien abduction accounts we've read. But that said, when this came out, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of the first big names to really talk about the issue. And his experience is pretty wild, and I think we had some great conversations about it.
Absolutely, we did.
So I think this has to be included.
I agree.
The next two, I think, are a little more debatable. So, Transformation.
No.
Yeah, here's the thing: is like I really enjoyed the rest of the Communion trilogy. But it definitely I feel like got more and more kind of in the weeds of his own personal experiences, and he ended up kind of recapping a lot of what happened in previous books, and that took up a lot of page space. It just there wasn't as much meat to chew on here.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if we're talking about the next two in general, I think of the two, Breakthrough would be the one that might make the list, but I don't think I would put either of those there, just because they both, like you said, they end up taking a more personalized turn, and now we're in the same realm as Jenny Tyson's book.
Yeah,
know?
Well, and really when it comes down to it, like, I felt like these books are great to read if you're a fan of Whitley Strieber and you really want to continue after Communion. I don't think they're necessary books from the point of view of understanding the phenomenon ufology. There are a lot of really interesting events in here. The vision of the Golden City, the weird sand university he got taken to. All those are really interesting to talk about. But again, it kind of goes back to there's not many directions you can take those conversations beyond. And isn't that weird?
Well, and honestly, from a skeptical point of view, in Communion, I can wholeheartedly believe every aspect of what he was saying there, because it parallels so much with other abductee experiences and things like that. once we get into transformation and breakthrough is when I started noticing the contradictions, when I started noticing some of the other things that are a lot harder to ignore, and from that alone it makes it harder for me to want to put it on the list.
Yeah, I agree. Again, while I come back to these are books worth reading, I don't think they're necessary for if you want to take a crash course on, I guess, our view of the phenomenon.
Agreed.
So our next book is the first book that we are going to be holding up here that you guys have not heard yet. There's going to be 3 that we're going to cover here that are going to be part of upcoming episodes. And the first one is the last book of the summer series. It's going to be the next episode coming up, A New World by Whitley Strieber. I liked this one.
Yep.
I liked this one a whole lot.
Yep.
I think, me personally, I think it did further my understanding specifically of Strieber's cosmology. It introduced some ideas that I still like to return to and think upon, about, especially his idea of the nature of souls and things like that. That said, a lot of the ideas I liked best in this book are presented also in the Afterlife Revolution, but we didn't cover that on the show, so it's not applicable to be on the list.
I think A New World kind of fine-tuned the things that he was developing inside transformation and breakthrough. And it made a lot of it make more sense. That said, there's still some areas of that book that I struggled with, but I liked it a whole lot. But then it comes down to the question, did it further my understanding of the phenomenon? I think yes, in its own way, because if nothing else, his idea of the soul was something that still lives rent-free in my brain.
Yeah, no, and that whole concept of hell is the moment the soul realizes it is going to be destroyed by the evil it's perpetuated. That's really poetic, and I really like the image, regardless of if it's true. Again, it lives rent-free in my head.
Yeah.
And I was also entertained by it. I liked it.
No, I agree.
Jay, what do you think?
No.
All right, well, we outvoted you. It's on the list.
I know.
So the next book is actually the one book I couldn't find a hard copy of. It's somewhere in this house. I don't know where. And that is Could All Religions Be True by Jack Preston King.
Oh, I brought my copy down, I thought.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Oh.
But it is a really neat little book. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that episode. It's a little... We decided to go kind of with a lighter, shorter book after the Summer of Strieber, kind of as a palate cleanser.
And it is a very short book.
It's a series of short essays kind of approaching the conversation of how could one God be real and not others? You know, they can't... Basically, it kind of comes down to the idea of could all religions have truth in them? And the answer is largely yes.
Yeah.
But that said, let's go down the list here. Did it further our understanding of the phenomenon? That one's tough, but I will say yes, just because his whole idea of being inside a myth versus outside a myth is something we still reference.
Yep, that's true.
In the episodes that we've recorded since then that also they haven't heard.
Yeah. Also true.
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
And it didn't cause an existential crisis, but it was I think for those 2 first points alone, I think it deserves to be on there. And also an extra point because it's Jack.
I was just going to say, and if for no other reason, I like Jack, and he deserves to be on the list. So we couldn't put, Visitors of Lanulos on the list when he was on there, but we can put his book on. So let's do it.
It's on the list.
All right. So our last book here is Occult America by Mitch Horowitz. This actually was suggested to us by a listener. It's the first listener request that we've done. I don't know, going down the list, again, because it was framed as more of a history book, it didn't further my understanding of the phenomenon, and it didn't really cause existential crises, but I thought the information I got here was very valuable. It gave a great overview of kind of how the occult tradition came to America from the European secret societies and how it grew here, and how kind of America took the occult and made it its very distinctly own thing, which over time kind of eventually became the self-help book industry.
Truly beautiful glimpse into the evolution of the prosperity gospel on American soil. And also, Rory gained a new historical enemy in the form of Pelly.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan.
The white supremacist wizard.
That the actions that he took in the 1930s and 1940s are still affecting us today.
Yeah,
he is the reason why we have such a modern push of neo-Nazis in America.
Yep.
That legitimately traces by and large back to him, to the point where if you went back in time and you killed Pelly, you might legitimately change the present in significant ways.
Which is
because of that.
Which is why I say something I say in that episode, which I won't say now because spoilers.
Yeah.
But I want to put this on the list, and the reason why is because we are Americans.
True.
And this book does a lot to explain why so much of America is the way it is because of the New Thought movement alone. Okay, because there are things that we see out there in the world today that are still being influenced by bullshit books that were taking only a third of New Thought and putting it out into, like you said, the self-help industry. And these are things that are still referenced and utilized today.
Yeah,
I talk about it on the episode, but one of the books that they reference in there, which is like the most popular self-help book in corporate culture, is on the reading list at my work.
Yeah, and again, you go back to, The Secret. I remember when that was huge.
Yep.
And you go into How to Win Friends and Influence People, or even on the esoteric side, the Law of Attraction, Manifestation. It all has its roots in American New Thought.
And here's the thing, like Rory said, we are Americans, and if we operate from a kind of Keel-esque perspective of, as I've said many times, I personally treat the phenomenon as input-output, stimulus-response. Being Americans influences how we view the occult, and that, therefore, according to Keel's perspective, absolutely influences how the occult interacts with us.
True.
So this probably did further our understanding of the phenomenon, just because maybe it's a lens through which we understand why it does what it does to us three in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it being on the list. And that brings us to the end.
Yeah.
So that was all the books that we've covered thus far, and a couple that you guys haven't heard yet. Now moving into I believe our close to final point here. We are going to move into the giveaways.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm going to list off those who have sent us their names already to be included.
It's 15 books exactly, by the way, the list.
Let's recap real quick the rules for the gifts, or for the giveaway, and what they are.
Okay, so, recap real quick. Please, if you want to be part of the giveaway, we're doing this old school with slips of paper and a hat that I'm going to draw out. Right now we have Grace Bauer, Haunted Burb, Big Mike, Michael of Troy Was Here, and Kai. So, if you guys want to be part of the drawing and you want a chance to win some of these prizes, please sound off right now in chat, or real quick send a DM to Troy. Send a DM to the Noctivagant Podcast Twitter account. There we go. Or send us an email at noctivagantpodcast@gmail.com. We're going to give you guys a couple minutes to do that while we get things set up. Oh, there we go. Bald Scientist. You're now in the running. So, real quick, going over our prizes again.
While other people, if they want to, can send us either the email and or DM. Let me pull the email back up because I accidentally closed it.
It is 9:30, by the way.
Yeah,
we're making good time.
Yeah.
All right, so our
We're
first
making great time.
our first potential prize is a set of 3 books: The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, Strange Frequencies by Peter Biebergall, and The Haunting of Alma Fielding by Kate Summerscale. 3 really great books. I'm going to do my best Ivana White impression around.
Vanna White?
Ivana White?
Yeah.
Vanna.
Vanna White?
There's no I in front of it?
No, you're thinking of Ivana Trump,
My life is a lie.
who was
Well,
just found dead at the bottom of the stairs during the January 6 hearings, so that's normal.
I didn't know that detail. Now I'm upset.
Yeah, they found her dead at the bottom of some stairs.
I mean, not that I cared about her personally, but that's ominous.
What just happened?
I don't know. All right, our next prize that we are going to be giving away is this really cool journal. It is something that you can write in. It's very cool cottony paper. It is, I don't know if you can tell, it's made of wood and banana leaves, which is cool. It's wild. as well as this quill point pen here.
That's a really cool quill.
I know. I'm actually kind of jealous for giving it away. I was tempted to leave it, accidentally leave it in my office. And our third prize, we have a Death's Head Moth Spirit Board. There is a planchette for it, which again it'll be sent with it, as well as the Quantum Tarot version 2.0, which is a very cool tarot deck.
Yeah, I love the art on it. Tyler, did you want in on the giveaway? Because if so, you still got to put your name in the chat. Just saying. But then you could win that journal and or quill.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick though, before we do the drawing, last chance. Anyone want to get your name in? And also, we are going to be moving into Q&A while I do this. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to sound off. If there's none of them, that's fine. You'll just have to listen to awkward silence.
Hold on. I can make this less awkward somehow, I think. What can I do? Yes, music. It's our theme song. My cousin actually liked this song. It's specifically paranormal books, or just generally what's our favorite book ever? Can you guys hear us now? I turned the music down, so it might. There's like a 5-second delay. So.
Yeah.
Oh. That might explain something.
Yeah. But anyway, Anyway, so Mike, follow-up question to your question. Okay, both. What the answer is both. All right, cool. So yeah, all right. Let's do the giveaway real quick.
All right, then we'll get into the questions. Yeah. So again, if your name is the first one to come up, you're going to have your pick of which prize you'd like to take. The second name pulled is going to get picked between the two remaining prizes, and the third name pull is going to get what's left. So, go ahead, Jay.
Our first winner is Big Mike.
Big Mike.
All right.
So, Big Mike, which one do you want? You get first dibs.
Again, we have the Journal and Quill set, the 3 books, or the Tarot deck and Spirit board.
Divination set. And while we wait for that, we can draw the second winner.
Our second winner is Bald Scientist.
Woo, Bald Scientist.
So you're going to have the pick of what is left after Big Mike tells us what he wants. All right.
Big Mike wants the Spirit board and Tarot.
All right, so Bald Scientist, it is up to you. You have the option between the Journal and Quill set or the 3 books.
And then who is going to be the final winner?
Here, Jay, you pick it.
Michael of Troy was here. You are
right.
our third winner.
All right, so Bald Scientist wants the Journal and Quill set. So that means, Mike, you are getting the 3 books, and that is our giveaway. So thank you all so much for taking the time to come with us. We're going to quickly go into Q&A now and try to answer some of your questions. If you did win a prize, please, 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 reach out to us either through Gmail or Twitter. Just don't put your address in chat, please. Just
Michael of Troy was here. Since I know who you are, I will just bring it for you on Tuesday.
All right, so yes, but if we do not know you personally, please send us your information so we can mail you these. We promise we will not put you on any lists or do anything other than send you some cool stuff.
No, we don't have time for that shit. Are you kidding me?
We are a DIY outfit, which is a nice way of saying we have no idea what we're doing.
That's correct. That is correct. I do the best that I can to make it sound like we know what we're doing, but honest to God, we have no idea what we're doing.
All right, so let's get into Q&A now while people reach out.
So while if anybody else has any other questions they want to give, the first question that I saw in the chat was what is from Michael of Troy was here, or just Mike. What's each of our all-time favorite books, paranormal and not? I'll go first because I already know the answer to this. My favorite not paranormal book is the book It by Stephen King. If you didn't know, and I'll show you on camera, I have a giant Pennywise tattoo on the back of my arm. It's hard to see, but it's got both the Tim Curry Pennywise and the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise inside the keyhole, and I read this book about once a year, even though it is like 1,300 pages or something crazy like that. But I love that book, even though it's got one of the most disturbing scenes of all time in it, the orgy.
Yeah.
But I just love everything about that book. As for my favorite paranormal book, I think that's going to be Passport to Magonia.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one to beat.
Yeah.
I think for me, non-paranormal books, I mean that one is very difficult for me. I have been obsessed with reading since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cheat and give a couple answers.
I also say Harry Potter too, because even though I hate J.K. Rowling, I absolutely love Harry Potter.
I think if I'm going to pick a series, for me it's going to be The Dark Tower by Stephen King. That was a very formative text for me. It is the only tattoo I have. I don't know if people can quite see that.
He's got the same tattoo that I do, but
I can't get it turned.
I can't.
It's on the other side of my arm. But anyway. The other books that I really enjoy that I often find myself going back to read, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury.
Phenomenal.
Is a great book. Also, a lesser-known one, The Reapers Are the Angels by Alden Bell, which is interesting that it's one of my favorites because I generally don't like zombie fiction that much, mostly because I think a lot of zombie fiction is pretty lazy. But this is not just the best zombie book I've ever read. In my opinion, it is one of the best post-apocalypse books I've ever read. And it follows the story of a 14-year-old girl who grew up in the apocalypse. She's never known any other world. Basically trying to survive while being hunted by a bastard. But it is a great book. It is hauntingly beautiful. I highly recommend it. Paranormal book-wise, I think Passport to Magonia could make the list, or could be the top one. Just to be different, I think I'm going to go with The Believer.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that book. And yeah, Dreamcatcher's also awesome, Marissa. I really enjoyed that book as well.
For me, I think so far my favorite paranormal book has been The Haunting of Alma Fielding. I am fascinated by Alma. I am endlessly amused by Nandor Fodor. And that entire period of psi research, of psychical research, actually, not even psi research, is so unique, and it almost to me feels like the beginning of the divergence between materialism and woo. And it's fascinating, as Nick has said several times. It reads almost like a historical romantic drama, more than it reads like, a woman being terrorized by an entity that may or may not have come out of her own mind.
Yeah.
And seriously, if you haven't read it, go fucking read it. It's amazing. And as for my favorite non-paranormal books of all time, that's a little bit difficult for me because the one that springs to mind is just one that I read when I was a kid. And this was something that I shit you not, guys. I read this book probably 25 to 30 times in middle school. There were times where I would finish it, close it, and then immediately open it back up to the first chapter again. And that is a book called The Secret Order of the Gum Street Girls by Elise Primavera. I and because nobody has heard of that, of basically it is these group of 4 girls that live on the same street called Gum Street, and it's kind of in this wacky surrealist town because it's an offbeat kids book, and they end up getting kidnapped by, I believe this character was described as the Wicked Witch of the West's niece. Her name was Cha-Cha, and she was...
The Wicked Witch of the West's niece is named Cha-Cha?
Something like that. I don't... Yeah, and...
Is she real smooth?
Yes. Yes, she is. And yeah, it's basically the adventures of these 4 girls getting kidnapped to an alternate dimension and... basically fighting through basically trying to survive these twisted versions of like Oz characters and just I can't even describe it. One of the girls is a very powerful psychic. One of the other girls is battling an intense curse that was inflicted upon her when her father disappeared. It's very funny and surreal, and it's also one of the darkest children's books I've ever read, and foundational text for me. Like I have an obsession with the Wizard of Oz because I loved this book so much. So if you have a kid out there that is trying to get into stranger middle fiction, like middle grade fiction stuff, and they're kind of interested in fantasy, and you're trying to like help expand their horizons. Secret Order of the Gum Street Girls, very solid, particularly if you have a little girl who might be, an undiagnosed autistic who's also secretly not a little girl at all. Just it's basically free at used bookstores now. So I rambled for a long time about that book, and there's many books I've read since then as an adult, but it's always going to be Secret Order for me. Like that's just it. It's always going to be Secret Order.
I mean, solid. As for in response to something I saw a little bit ago in the chat, Marissa, Stephen King is also my favorite fiction author. I have 3 tattoos that reference Stephen King. I have the Ka symbol like Nick does from the Dark Tower series.
We got it in Vegas while we were drunk.
Yeah, we were sober, but that's okay.
I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
Was I?
Yeah, because I wasn't going to let you get a tattoo while you were drunk.
My memories of Vegas are very
we only
fuzzy.
drank one day when we were in Vegas.
When you are in Las Vegas, it does not matter how stone cold sober you are. You feel drunk.
Yeah.
Like, I seriously, that place is a fever dream.
No, you're right. But no, we were stone cold sober. But I also have this tattoo right here, which you can't really see, but it's all a stack of books with a quote from The Shining, the tiara from Carrie, and a balloon, a red balloon from it. And then, like I said, the It tattoo, the Pennywise tattoo on the back of my arm. But I'm a big fan. Big fan of Stephen King.
So I believe there was another question that we did get, and you answered it, but it was while the music is playing, so
Yeah.
I don't think they heard you.
Yeah, and I was about to get to that, and that was, where did we get this theme? It's awesome. Well, the theme, and it's in the show notes, was actually made by Matt Wixon, who is my cousin. He made the theme for us, and he remixed it for the Midnight Chats. And then the voice, the welcome to Noctivagant. Come take a walk with us. That is a gentleman named Mike, who is a friend of my cousin, who did that voice for us. The other stuff, like the intro for the Midnight Chat, which is like the footsteps, the door, and then the other voice, that's me. I created that, and then that's me saying the voice. And then for the Summer of Strieber, that little bit that's like, I say something, I don't remember, but that's me too. I do that voice and then just drop my pitch by a little bit, and then throw some other filters on it to make it sound neat. But yeah, no, the song comes from my cousin. He made it for us for free, which is even better. And then he also made my old political podcast, Let's Be Real Here. He made that intro for me as well, and that one's very ska influenced. I love it.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Politics with trumpets.
Yep, politics with trumpets.
All right, does anyone else have any other questions before we head off for the night?
Because now is the time. Now is the time.
Or literally any time. They can DM us or email us.
Yeah, for real. Like,
All right.
we're down to chat and hang out and do whatever. But
It also doesn't have to be about the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be about anything at all. But also,
Just don't ask me what fan fiction I was writing on my lunch break. I'm not going into
What
that.
fan fiction were you writing on your lunch break?
You don't need to know things.
All right.
well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and also, we really got to say, guys, this past year has been a wild trip for us.
Yeah.
This show really did start because these were conversations that we were having between each other about the paranormal, and we were really enjoying it, and we hoped other people would enjoy it. And so the idea of the book club kind of came from that, and
I was pressuring you guys to do a podcast with me.
Yes.
yeah, but really, I am eternally thankful to every single person who tunes into us. While we are still a very small show, we have great fans, we have a great audience, and we really love you guys. You guys continually.
Yeah, you guys are neat.
And for real, like from the bottom of our the darkest and lightest parts of our souls and our hearts and whatever, like thank you, because it has absolutely blown my mind what this show has accomplished in a year. And it has been non-stop for us.
Well,
You know, it is,
and we're just getting started. We have so much
Absolutely.
cool stuff lined up for you guys.
And if you guys liked the stream, I had a great time personally, and I think that this is something. It's not going to be that regular because, for honest to God, we don't have the time right now. But if you guys liked it, it's something we could do more regularly.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
thinking maybe monthly or something like that. But that's
Yeah.
going to be something we're going to have to broach.
down the line.
Yeah, a little down the line. But yeah, so thank you all so much for tuning in. Those who stuck with us to the very end, you're the coolest of our listeners.
Yeah, and for those of you that I don't know where they'll be on Tuesday, DM us either on Twitter or shoot us an email, noctivagantpodcast@gmail.com, with your deets so that we can give you your prizes.
And also, Big Mike, you also don't need to know things.
All right, well,
I think that's it. So
Rory,
I guess
lead us out of here.
that's it. So good night, ghosties. Good night, ghoulies. Good night, moth people. Stay safe out there on those midnight roads.
Don't listen to them. Be dangerous. Run off after the Wendigo.
Follow the signposts and don't follow the culturally appropriated monster. It doesn't belong to you.
Oh my God. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.